Hey everybody, it's Dina Rico with the Creativity Cave, and I have a great card to share with you today. Isn't this so bright, happy, and fun? I just love it. I am going to be using the Botanical Blooms stamp set, which is just such a fun set. It's been around for a few months now, but as soon as I saw the new colors that we have, especially the Peekaboo Peach and the Flirty Flamingo, I knew this was the perfect set for this card. So, or the perfect colors to go with this set. So I'm really excited to share with you what I have come up with. So I'm going to just put a protective paper behind my working cardstock, and I'm just going to start with a white panel, as I often do. And I am going to start with a pink flower here. But you know what? Actually, can I just share with you something? So I know you think that my magical genius just comes together flawlessly every time, and that's not always the case. Every once in a while it does, but I started by stamping, I think, this piece, and I thought, oh, this would be cute. I'll try and turn that into a card, and I just didn't like it. And then I thought I'll try it again, and I didn't like that one either. And so then I made this card, and it was okay, but just not quite right. So then I eventually ended up with this one. So I think the difference between these two is that I added some dimension. I ended up cutting out one of these flowers. I took the black out because that was just not quite right. And then I added the banner in popped up, and then I added some of our neat little in color enamel dots. So let me just show you that it doesn't always happen on the first try. Sometimes it does, but not always. And I think it's good to know that even if you don't like it, just to keep going and figuring out what you do like about it and then working from there. That's kind of my process. And you know how I like air quotes. Anyway, so back to my card. I have stamped my flower in Flirty Flamingo, and then I'm going to go ahead and add some smaller flowers in Peekaboo Peach, but I'm going to stamp them off so I get kind of a different combination of colors, and then I just got a big goober on here, so we'll try that again. And I find that when you stamp in threes, things look good to the eye. They're pleasing to the eye. So that's kind of part of what I do when I stamp, is arrange things like that. Then I'm going to do I'm going to stamp these off too. They're full strength on my card, but something tells me they're a little bit too intense. See, I think one of these versions is going to be perfect. I just know it. Okay, then I have some of these cute little, these little images from the stamp set that I think are really cute. So first of all, I'm going to do Flirty Flamingo for the centers of my little flowers. And then I'll stamp a couple more of these just around my card. But you know what? I think I'm going to change colors, or at least that's what I did. Sometimes I got to clean in between. Okay, these I'll do full strength. And again, notice how I'm doing everything in threes. And I just think that adds to a nice, pleasing look. So then I will stamp the little center here inside of those flowers, and then do a few more scattered around. Guess how many? That's right, 3. And do you see how I'm building kind of a nice even area? Then I'm going to come and add some greenery to this, because we've got a lot of pink and peach going on. Let's add some greenery. Now, in the same way, I will stamp off these layers first, and I'm also going to build this in threes. And then I think I should have put some down before I stamped more. I always, when I stamp random stuff like this, I always like to stamp in biggest to smallest, because you can always fit those smaller images in, but sometimes it's harder to get the bigger pieces in, like a leaf, when you've already stamped the little pieces around it. And I think, let's see. I'm trying to decide what to do. I can't remember if I stamped that one off or not. I think I'll just kind of do this. I wanted to get a couple on my biggest flower here, but I don't think that's going to work. Okay, then I'll come back in full strength with the detail veins, and I'll try and stamp them on the stamp. My goodness. Having some personal issues here. Oh. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to stamp my flower to be popped up. So I will take and ink this up with Fleur de Flamingo and stamp it off before I put it on my cardstock. Then I will do the smaller stamp in Fleur de Flamingo, but full strength, and line it up so it's kind of centered as best as I can. And then I'm going to take the little center to this and stamp it in Watermelon Wonder so I get a little bit darker shade. Okay, then I will cut that out with the framelit that coordinates, and look what I have here. I did it ahead of time. Okay, then as I always like to, I'm just going to curl the petals of this up a bit and pop it up on top of my card with some dimensionals. And then last but not least, I'm going to add some enamel dots. Now these enamel dots are so stinking cute. They really are. They come in different assortments. This is the in color assortments. You can see there's a whole bunch of them. So I will just go ahead and take and place one in the center of my flower here. It helps if you only have one in your hand though. So I'll put that right in the middle, and then I'll add a couple of other dots on here. And oops, these are just like rhinestones or pearls. Just place them wherever you'd like. So I have 3 on there, but I think I need to put one more on here as well. And I think these are just so cute. And I think I really like the look of all of this. Okay, now we're almost done. It's pretty easy. I'm going to take a panel of cardstock to adhere as well as my card to put this all together, and then I will add my greeting. So I've got fast fuse, and that's perfect. And then I will adhere this to my card. Now I have to tell you a funny story. I was coming home from our vacation a couple weeks ago, and we were going through customs in Chicago, and let me tell you, it was a lengthy process. It was taking forever. The lines were really long, and there was all this stuff you had to do to get through. It was really kind of painful, to be honest. And as we finally got to the end of the line and we were standing up to the actual immigration guy or customs guy or whoever, he was asking what we did, where we were, what we did. And so, you know, my husband's an engineer, okay, and then he looked at me and he's like, and what do you do? And I thought, oh dear, here we go. And I said, well, I have a home-based business. And he said, doing what? And I was like, arr! I said, teaching rubber stamping and scrapbooking. And he looked at me, he goes, oh, I know all about that. And I said, I go, with Stampin' Up? And he goes, yep. And I was like, that's awesome. And he goes, my mother has all of this Stampin' Up stuff. And he was probably in his 20s, you know, he wasn't very old. And I said, that's awesome. And he goes, every time she leaves, I want to just get rid of all of it. And I thought, shame on you. In fact, I think I even said that. And my husband was like, hold up there. But he should not be dissing Stampin' Up. And so I just thought that was kind of hysterical that this 20-something guy at the Chicago immigration was dissing Stampin' Up to me. I mean, the nerve. Seriously. Okay, so you can see I stamped my Sending Smiles. I did it in the little bit darker color of Watermelon Wonder, just to really kind of punch things up and, bring out the center of that one. And I put some dimensionals on it, which, by the way, these little strips that I do with my greetings are perfect for using the edge pieces left over on your dimensionals. I once had a lady throw like 4 of these away. She's like, "Oh, they're all used." I'm like, "No, they're not." Anyway. And then finally, I'm just going to snip off my little... Okay, that's funny. The scissors were not underneath. That's what happens when you look through the camera to try and do these things. Okay, so I just snipped the edge off. Isn't that cute? I just love how it turned out. So I hope you enjoyed stamping this with me today. I love stamping with you. It's so fun, and I hope you enjoyed my funny little story about the customs guy, because oh my gosh, seriously. Anyway, if you go to my blog, you can see all the details and additional photos for this beautiful card, as well as the supplies that I used. And you know what? Okay, we're friends. We can do this. I just realized we should sew. Well, I was going to say we should sew be covering that up, but that's okay. Shh, nobody hello. I was just going to say, though, if you like any of these products and would like to purchase them, please use my online store. It helps support the videos that I make for you every day, as well as I have a fabulous VIP rewards program that I would love to invite you to be a part of. We do all kinds of fun things on our site, and there's lots of perks. All of those details can be found on my blog. Thank you so much for joining me, and please share this with your friends and the people who love stamping in your life. I would really appreciate it. Help get the word out, and thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Bye!